Hello everyone. Welcome to the second workshop for the Hardy County Comprehensive Plan Update 2030. My name is Melissa Scott. I'm the Hardy County Planner, and I would like to welcome you all tonight and thank you so much for coming to participate in this process. So tonight we're going to have a little overview of the Comprehensive Plan Update process and the public input processes. We're going to discuss the quality of life and exactly what that means, which is the topic of tonight's workshop. We're going to overview the quality of life data from the current community survey, and then we're going to look at some information and data related to the current conditions for quality of life topics chosen for tonight's meeting, and those include health, education, recreation and tourism, and housing. And then I hope that we're going to have a very productive discussion. The point of the data presentation tonight is to share my research concerning the actual current conditions in the county so we can hopefully have a more informed discussion. I'm going to attempt to allow more open discussion tonight than we did last time, so I hope you will be considerate of others during this time. So, what is a comprehensive plan? This is basically for anyone who wasn't at the first workshop or didn't watch the presentation online. And I just want to quickly review the basics of this process. If you want more information, you can always watch the presentation from the previous meeting on our website. So, the comp plan is a policy document, not a regulatory document. It sets the guidelines for the future development, regulation, and law for the next 10 to 20 years. So what is the comprehensive plan? The comprehensive plan is a document that looks at the past, present, and future conditions of an array of community issues and sets a vision for the future. It then lists goals for these specific topics and offers strategies to help the community meet those goals that we set. So why update the plan? Well, without a comprehensive plan, a community may not legally adopt or enforce most land use regulations in West Virginia. The regulatory documents, ordinances, codes, etc. must reflect the policies set forth in the comprehensive plan. Universally, plans are required to be updated every 10 years, but a plan may be revised before the 10-year update if it is shown that the views no longer reflect the positions of the community or that significant issues have arisen that need to be addressed. The basic update process is to assess the needs of the community through data and plan review and public input, establish vision and goals, and then draft a plan outlining the data and create implementation strategies to be used to meet the goals. The plan will then be open for public review and final adoption by the Planning Commission, then the County Commission. All of our information can be accessed on the Planning Commission website, and it's accessed directly through the Hardy County Planning Commission link on hardycounty.com. The public input and feedback is very important to us. Local land use planning is one of the few government institutions that seek extensive public feedback before drafting policies that influence regulation. There have been and will continue to be many opportunities to be involved in this process. There have been stakeholder meetings, 2 public workshops, this being the second. There is also an online survey, also available on paper, until the end of October, and the planning office staff is always open to talking with the public during the draft portion of this plan update. After the plan is drafted, there will be an open house for the public review. They will review the full proposed document. Comments that will then be taken at that time and considered by the Planning Commission. Once the final amendments have been made, there will be 2 public hearings, one for the Planning Commission, at which time they will revise or accept the plan and pass it on to the County Commission for adoption, and one for the County Commission, when they will revise and adopt, and finally adopt the final version of the plan. I will say again that the public hearings come at the end of the process and are not the time to address large issues. So the reason for so many input opportunities throughout this process is to give the staff the information needed to draft a plan that is amenable to all parties. This is a completely transparent process for the board and for the public, so please engage and provide feedback early in the process. The public hearings are not the appropriate time to provide input. They are to provide comments on the decisions that were made by the Planning Commission and County Commission and to propose suggestions for revisions. So, workshop number 1, we talked about balancing jobs and economy with natural beauty and rural culture. And here in workshop number 2, we are going to talk about improving the quality of life. So what exactly is quality of life? Quality of life can be defined as the elements of a community that contribute to the level of satisfaction and happiness citizens experience in their community. What people need to feel satisfied and happy differs, of course, so this can be subjective, but it is pretty well generally agreed upon that these factors are included in quality of life: physical and mental health, financial security, employment satisfaction, health of the environment, education and cultural opportunity, recreation and leisure time, social belonging, religious beliefs, safety and security, and freedom and sense of control. So I want to share some of the survey responses thus far for the questions dealing with quality of life issues. These results are from approximately 450 survey responses that are in so far. Of the quality of life factors listed in the survey, natural beauty continues to significantly outrank other issues as the #1 chosen answer. The second and third ranked answers are more of the intangible factors: rural culture and small town feel. The quality of the environment and recreational opportunities are also important to those that took the survey. The top challenges of life in Hardy County were listed as inadequate support services and limited access to health care. Inadequate support services are things like services for aging, disability, mental health, and drug abuse. Lack of employment ranks third, but we believe this translates to the challenge of low-paying jobs that do not support a quality standard of living, or jobs that are not satisfying, rather than actual lack of job opportunities, as there are many opportunities in this county. So we touched on this in our last workshop a little bit. Some of the other challenges that were listed were distance to schools, retail and services, difficult with internet access, which in the comments showed to be the price of internet as much as the lack of available service, and insufficient arts and cultural opportunities. The top-ranked public services that survey respondents want to see the county work to improve are health and social services, which for this survey include mental health, drug treatment, and public health. 53.5% of people chose this as important. The second most popular choice was to increase efforts to improve education. The third was trash and recycling services, which tied with better road conditions. But the county only has indirect influence on these issues, so we're not going to talk much about them. I will address them in the plan, though. Aging assistance programs, more parks and recreation and cultural venues, and better emergency and public safety are also ranked with importance among those who took this survey. The private sector improvements most important to people, according to the community survey, is better cell service, more retail, and better access to the internet. While Hardy County has excellent internet service compared to most other rural communities of our size, I'll say again that people did list cost as a barrier to service. More childcare and recreational opportunities were also desired. Interestingly, the need for more private medical services ranked fairly low, even though access to medical care ranked as a significant challenge. More tourist rentals ranked the lowest, and we will talk more about this when we start talking about housing. For amenities, besides new agricultural opportunities, people want to see more technology and entrepreneurial jobs, and as we talked about in the last workshop, more career opportunities as opposed to jobs. Surprisingly, but maybe not since survey respondents already live here, leisure activities like cultural opportunities rank just slightly higher than more affordable housing. So most quality of life research focuses on health and safety and socioeconomic factors. In most quality of life data that rank states, West Virginia falls in the high 45 range. There are, however, pockets in West Virginia that make top rankings nationally. Of course, we believe Hardy County to be one of those pockets. They may or may not be. In several different sets of data, including the annual DHHR reports, the results of Hardy County in these categories are very similar to the state's averages. The set of data from the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute, which is shown here, they do a lot of research on this type of housing for U.S. localities, shows much the same results as the DHHR, and also shows that Hardee County is fairly equal to the state in their rankings. In this study, Hardee County ranks 15th in the state for an overall quality of life ranking based on the factors listed here. I just want to say that while different county offices and departments often look at the statistics dealing with their own particular issue, it is the job of the planning office to look at all of these statistics and how they are related and consider causes and effects and what can be done in the community to speak to or alleviate the problems. Some of the quality of life factors that are most concern to Hardee County are the obesity rates and lack of preventative care measures. This is likely related to our patient-doctor ratio, as well as the lack of mental health care professionals. We also have a higher than average violent crime rate and juvenile arrest rate, and higher teen pregnancy rate, at least according to these data. My research and the survey results show very few people in the county are concerned with crime, and the school representatives do not see teen pregnancy or juvenile arrests as an issue. So this may warrant some more research. Of course, it could also be that these youth are those that have dropped out of school, as our graduation rate listed here is less than that of the state. Hardee County does rank better than average in factors such as income equality, injury deaths, children in single-parent households, and severe housing problems, which include lack of kitchen and plumbing facilities. Hardee also has a lower association with social groups, which the association with social groups often improves the quality of life. This may be due to the workload of farmers in this rural area and the distance to meeting places. That's something that we may want to take a better look at when we're writing this plan. So access to healthcare was identified as a challenge in Hardee County, and we have an aging population in a remote area. So let's talk a little bit about this and how it affects us. Before we look at our local data on this, I do want to point out that the issues of concern that are coming to surface both through our surveys and through state and national data sets are also issues in many parts of rural America. Rural health care is a challenge all across the country due to the consistently older and sicker populations that are in rural areas. And although COVID funding has given temporary relief to some of the hospital facilities, overall it has worsened this problem. According to research from the University of North Carolina, 138 rural hospitals have closed since 2010, with a record high of 19 closings in 2020 alone. Recent West Virginia hospitals that have closed are the Memorial Hospital in Mingo County and the one in Fairmont in Marion County. Luckily, we here in West Virginia have the J.W. Ruby Memorial Hospital, or WVU Medicine, and they have been buying up the hospitals in rural parts of West Virginia, and they now have 14 community hospitals in West Virginia and 3 in other border states, and those are listed here. It's pretty amazing how much they've expanded in recent years. Some West Virginia hospitals are owned by entities from other states, such as Hampshire County, Hampshire Memorial, and they are owned by Valley Health. But many of our rural hospitals that have not been taken over by a larger entity are struggling to remain viable. These include Grant Memorial, Greenbrier Valley, and many other local small hospitals. Without being affiliated to larger entities, they are at risk for bankruptcy and closure. There have been some interesting stories lately in the news regarding these struggles, and there's one in particular that I'll refer you to if you're interested to look at later. It's a recent story on 100 Days in Appalachia, which is a really great show. So take a look at that if you feel you want to delve more into this topic. So for Hardee County, the concerns of the people are supported when you look at the numbers. The doctor-patient ratio in Hardee County is 1 doctor to 6,890 patients. That is a pretty high number. We are 52nd in West Virginia for doctor-patient ratio. Hardy County is interesting in that we are the 15th healthiest county in West Virginia, but the 30th in healthy lifestyles. So with some simple changes in lifestyle, we have to wonder how much we could really improve our ranking overall in health and quality of life. So there are only about 3 counties in West Virginia that have a higher doctor-patient ratio, meaning more patients to fewer doctors. There are a number of nurse practitioners and physician's assistants practicing in the county that may alleviate some of that stress, but as far as medical doctors with MDs or DOs, that ratio is pretty darn alarming. A positive factor for most of Hardy County, though, is that the population is about 1 hour or less from some larger hospitals, including the Winchester Medical Center and Centra Health in Harrisonburg. However, transportation is sometimes an issue, especially in emergency room situations. This is the reason, I believe, for the survey responses stating that we need better emergency response services. But that being a very sore issue in Hardy County, we're not going to get into that tonight. So digging a little deeper into the issues that cause the most health concern in Hardy County, we see that heart disease is the #1 cause of death. And this is likely related to our higher than normal, even for the state of West Virginia, instances of obesity. Our rate in Hardy County hovers at about 40%. Hardy Countyans' cause of death trends align with those of most Appalachian communities. Although Hardy Countyans are healthier than most West Virginia counties, we have a longer life expectancy than the state. They live less healthy lifestyles with higher smoking and obesity rates and lower rates of preventative health measures than the state and the national averages. So our life expectancy for males in Hardy County is 75. In West Virginia, it's 73. The U.S. is 76. And for female, the life expectancy is 80.5. For West Virginia, it's only 78.5. And in the U.S., it's 85.1. Heart disease, as you can see, is the #1 mortality cause. Second is lung disease, including cancer. Then diabetes and stroke are the next causes of death. And we have accident, violence or self-harm, liver disease, and mental disorders or substance abuse. So now let's take a look at one of the top concerns of Hardy County. Although survey respondents listed drug abuse as one of their biggest concerns, the county statistics do not show a high instance of drug deaths relative to our population and compared to other counties in West Virginia. However, in small communities like Hardy County, these deaths perhaps seem more significant due to the close-knit community, and the citizens here feel like we need to address these issues with more drug prevention and treatment opportunities. According to the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources, Hardy County has had 21 drug overdose deaths in 2020 and 32 EMS calls for suspected overdose. Hardy County has had approximately 12 overdose deaths in 2019, 18, and 17, with about 20 EMS calls each year. In 2016 and 15, Hardy County reported no overdose deaths. There was a significant increase in overdose deaths across the country in 2020, so it will be important to monitor these numbers over the next few years in order to monitor the trends. But as you see, for West Virginia communities, Hardy County is in the lower half for overdose deaths. There are more males than females overall in West Virginia, deaths and overdoses. And you can see here the age range, which has the highest incidence of overdose deaths. So let's look at the next topic of our conversation tonight for quality of life, and that is education. The performance of Hardy County and West Virginia students in general is an ongoing issue. The struggle to provide services of any kind in a rural area is a financial struggle, and education is no different. Social issues, many related to cultural or generational priorities, are also definitely a factor in the low attainment levels seen in education across the state. From conversations I've had with educators, they believe social issues, many related to cultural or generational priorities, are definitely a factor in the low attainment levels seen here in Hardy County. The stresses related to poverty and varied schedules of parents who are working industry jobs, and the overall lack of parent involvement in general, and even workloads on the children themselves have all been identified as concerns. This, along with technology gaps some students and teachers face, and higher teacher salaries in adjoining states that cause younger, more educated teachers to move or commute to schools with higher pay, all lead to stagnation of learning atmosphere. Inflexible teaching methodologies mandated from state or federal statutes, and inclusion of all levels of learners in single classes with little individual assistance have also been mentioned as hurdles to productive learning. So let's take a look at the little bit of data that I found on educational attainment in Hardy County. These numbers all come from proficiency numbers based on the West Virginia statewide assessment tests. West Virginia Department of Education statistics for Hardy County show a proficiency level at less than 50% of all subjects in all grades. Overall, the highest proficiency is in reading and the lowest is in math. Approximately 15% of students meet or exceed standards overall in all subjects. Again, student performance is the lowest in math and the highest in reading. While there has been some fluctuation in enrollment by school, overall there's only a difference of approximately 110 students total from 2015 to 2020. There are, however, fewer younger children entering school in Hardy County. These statistics show that the graduation rate here is 94.53% in 2020. Now let's take a look at some data on higher education in Hardy County. According to the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, 8 out of 10 Hardy County students are college ready in terms of courses taken. 42% of Hardy County high school grads actually go to college, and the top pick for college for Hardy County graduates is Eastern West Virginia Community and Technical College. We're very fortunate to have that college here in Moorefield. They currently only have about 133 full-time students, but they do have 350 more part-time students. Most of those are likely working while they are attending school. Eastern West Virginia Community College also offers more than a dozen certification programs right here in Moorefield. Those are for programs that are in demand. They can put kids to work very quickly earning money. They also have the Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, IREAD, and they work with small business development, including agriculture innovation and partnerships with the USDA to help locals start new businesses. And that is one of the economic development initiatives that people really want to see more of here in Hardy County, is locally owned entrepreneurial businesses. So we hope that a lot of our students are eventually going to take advantage of that opportunity. Eastern actually offers many of the opportunities that survey respondents have said we needed. So I think with this, as with many of the other needs identified, there is an element of community education and communication that needs to be addressed here in Hardy County. People simply don't seem to know what is available, and they don't know how to access it. So we really need to work on that in this community. Now let's take a look at recreation. Many of our survey responses express the desire for more recreational opportunities, but with our low population, it would be pretty difficult to sustain a recreational business with local traffic alone. So in talking about recreation as a sustainable business to improve the quality of life for our residents, I think we also need to look at how many visitors would also support these businesses and make them financially feasible for their owners. So let's take a look at the topic in terms of recreation and tourism. There are very few statistics for the tourism industry by county, but the State Tourism Office produces some data on the economic benefits of recreation and tourism in the state, and I've put together some of the data from their site on this slide here so you can take a look at it. There's some pretty interesting numbers. They do know for sure that 3.5 million people come to the Welcome Centers in West Virginia each year. And if all goes well, Hardy County will have a new Welcome Center before too long, as that's in the works. The state estimates that 45,000 jobs are created from tourism. While many are quick to point out that these are seasonal jobs, the benefits of the outside dollars being spent in our state is an undisputable benefit. Actual direct spending is estimated to be $4.1 billion. The state estimates that 11% of their visitors are from the DC area. Since the visitors only stay an average of 2.7 nights, it is likely that a large percentage of these travelers are visiting our region. And in fact, considering our data that a large percentage of our properties are now owned by individuals from that area, a large percentage probably eventually come back and buy property. Many of the visitors that are staying in our area and producing revenue are staying in short-term rental properties or Airbnbs. These are where owners rent out their residences or part of their residences for overnight stays, short-term, a couple of nights to a week. We have more than 100 of these rentals, short-term rentals in Hardy County, and the average price is from $100 to $500 per night. This makes it very attractive for those with disposable income to come here, purchase property, use them for occasional recreational use, and then rent them for short-term rentals. I would say the planning office gets at least one call per week asking if it's permitted to buy property and build multiple rental cabins for short-term rental use only. While this may seem like a good thing for our economy, it is creating a conundrum because while we need places for tourists to stay, if we want more tourists, more recreation and more leisure businesses, we are also facing skyrocketing home prices in part due to the potential income from these short-term rentals. Then there are the increased complaints of dissatisfaction from the homeowners living in the residential neighborhoods with a high percentage of weekend visitors, and you really can't blame them for that. We'll talk a little bit more about this in our housing discussion, but first let's look at what leisure activities we do have here in the county. Hardy County draws a lot of visitors with the natural outdoor opportunities associated with the rivers and mountains, such as fishing, hunting, bird watching, and river access. Our local residents also take advantage of these amenities and believe these resources add to their quality of life and are worth preserving. Lost River State Park is a very popular draw to the county. It receives over 30,000 visitors each year, and people can enjoy camping, horseback riding, hiking, and more increasingly mountain biking, which the trails are currently being developed there for mountain biking. Hardy County also has a rich history that draws people to our more than 40 historic landmarks. But one of the most popular activities of visitors to Hardy County seems to be the experience of mountain getaways, stays in the country to get away from their city life. They do this through these short-term rentals that we were talking about. And then the trends show that these people who are visiting are then coming back to purchase second homes in the mountains. And eventually they become permanent residents here, and that's partially the cause of our population increase. We are one of the few counties in the state who do have a population increase from 2010 to 2020. So overall, we do have quite a few amenities for people to enjoy here, but people think that we need more. So we're going to see what we can do to improve that in the future. So with all that talk about the short-term rentals, let's take a look at the housing issues in Hardy County. Many of which, like I said, we've touched on already in the previous discussion, but now let's take a look at some of the data associated with this. Many of the homeowners in Hardy County have been in their homes for many years, but those that are looking for homes to buy or rent right now are having a really hard time finding pretty much anything at all. Quick internet searches for rentals in Hardy County returned very few results, and the rent listed is almost double the gross median rent estimates from the Census Bureau for the 2019. So this data here on this demographic housing profile is from the 2010, the 2019 5-year estimates, as the 2020 census data is not available yet. And they say that we currently have 8,404 housing units, that 73.8% of our housing is owner occupied. And just as kind of a side note, we have a density of 21.4 people per square mile, which is very low. West Virginia density is 77, and Hampshire County is 37.4. The average median cost to owners with a mortgage is $974 a month. In West Virginia, it's over $1,000, and in the U.S., it's over $1,500. And then the gross median rent here, they say, is $755 a month. In West Virginia, it's $225. In the U.S., it's $1,062. This data was all collected before the recent uptick in sales and demand for the housing in Hardy County. So I'm really anxious to get my hands on the 2020 data and maybe even some other more recent data when we actually go to write the plan. As I pointed out in the last workshop, our population has increased, unlike most of West Virginia, and home prices have skyrocketed in Hardy County. In just the last year, they have increased around 35%. And this is one of the low estimates I've found when researching this data with the local or the internet real estate sites. There's several that actually list the percent increase as much higher than that. When looking at the other priorities of Hardy Countyans, such as agriculture preservation and expansion and rural culture, we also need to be aware of the potential for land subdivision, which reduces the likelihood of agriculture preservation. Hardy County has seen a 275% increase in the number of parcels here in the last 100 years. If we continue at that pace for the next 100 years, we will have gone from 7 parcels per square mile to 90 parcels per square mile, and will essentially have lost the rural qualities of Hardy County. As I talked about in the last meeting, 30% of our parcels have out-of-state ownership listed. 24% are from DC, Virginia, Maryland, or Pennsylvania. You can see those in the green on this map. Even with all of these subdivisions, we still see the desire to create more housing units that would cater to this percentage of the population. If you are a developer, there is very little profit margin in the moderate priced homes, so there's little incentive to build and market to that population. So this map shows all the subdivisions, the formal residential subdivisions that are existing in Hardy County right now. These are all these highlighted areas here. We have several smaller subdivisions, a few mid-sized, and a few very large subdivisions, the largest of which is 10,000 acres. Within these subdivisions, we currently have 6,865 undeveloped residential subdivision lots. That is a pretty significant number for a county of this size. But when I say undeveloped, they have no more than $3,000 worth of building value on them. And you can see all these in red on this map. So as we consider the need for more subdivisions in this county, we need to look at these existing properties and why they are not developed. Are there possibly land use decisions that need to be made in order to make efficient use of this land and prevent further subdivision of our rural lands? I would say yes. We also need to decide if we're going to formulate land use and residential goals that support the housing needs of our current population and workforce, or if we want residential housing second homes and short-term rentals to be an economic driver here. Perhaps we can figure out how to do both with some thoughtful planning, but it is going to take some work. So when we take a closer look at these vacant residential lots, the path forward may seem obvious, but it's not, because unfortunately, from a buyer or seller's perspective, many of these lots are less than desirable due to things like a lack of or defunct homeowners associations that have led to unenforced standards of construction, impassable roads, and things like that. And sometimes in the more secluded areas, we even find subdivision lots that once had considerable restrictions on them that have structures on them that are no more than a shed or even a camper that have become full-time residences for folks who can't afford anything else. These are some of the issues that we struggle with as we try to administer zoning and subdivision ordinances with low levels of restriction. So we do welcome comments on this evening in our workshop. We will need to work in the future to address these in our zoning ordinance. So even though Hardy County has a high rate of home ownership, we also need to consider housing challenges for younger families and the workforce in Hardy County that cannot afford to buy a home at the current prices. This is a rising problem throughout the nation as well as here in Hardy County. In order to address this, we need to take a look at the residential rental situation. According to the Census Bureau, most of the rental units in Hardy County are located near Moorefield, as you can see here in the darker red. We here in the planning office are very well aware that rentals are in great demand. We have a lot of people coming in asking if there are any entities that have listings of rentals, and there are just very few resources for that, mainly because there are very few rentals. Unfortunately, many of the current rentals are being converted into these short-term rentals for vacationers and for clients of local industry. These renters, for the most part, are lower maintenance than regular residential renters, and they offer a higher revenue to the owner. There are some mostly local individuals here are trying to provide quality, affordable housing to our residents, and those include a few well-run mobile home parks and some nice unsubsidized 55-plus apartments. We really need to find a way in this county to incentivize more of this type of development, both for purchase and for rent. Many other communities are using federal money to incent developers to build more affordable housing, or they build housing on county land, as Hardy County did back with Caledonia Heights. It would be much more desirable for Hardy County to create incentives to accomplish affordable housing than to place more restrictions on development. But we would need to be more creative with our funding opportunities in order to do this. But I really do think we are going to have to do something to address this current situation and market. So it has been shown that people cannot sustain rent that requires more than 30% of their income. This 2019 census data shows that many renters in Hardy County are currently paying 30% or more of their income for rent. You can see those areas that are in the darker red here, the 49%, 47%, and 47% here, they're all paying more than 30% and some upwards of 50% of their income for rent. This is before the recent increase in home prices in Hardy County too, so we really need to keep an eye on this. And I really look forward to seeing the data from 2020 census when it comes out, and I may have to get some other local housing data to add to this when we're writing the plan. So before we move on to our discussion, I want to end by sharing with you the goals from the current comprehensive plan, as I did at the last meeting. For tonight, it's those that apply to the topics we've talked about, the quality of life topics. Some things have changed since the last plan and when we wrote these goals, but there may still be some components of the goals that are salvageable, and we will look through these and make decisions on that. So the current comprehensive plan goal for housing is Hardy County is to strengthen the existing housing stock and identify areas well suited for a variety of different types of future housing developments, all while ensuring attractive and sound design and construction that meets the needs of the Hardy County population. For public services, the goal is to facilitate open communication between public and private entities to identify civic public service needs and support policies that ensure effective and efficient delivery of services to meet those needs, current and future, regardless of age, ability, or affiliation. For tourism, the goal is to support the implementation of recreational and historic preservation goals that promote enhancement of facilities and programs that will increase travel and tourism through the region, so that the economic benefit of tourism will enhance the local commercial vitality. And for recreation, promote the importance of public open space for recreational and leisure activities, protect existing facilities, and support enhancement of recreational opportunities to increase economic, social, and environmental viability, encouraging tourism as an economic development strategy. I also want to remind you that you can provide input on the vision statement for the county. I'll be working on this with the Planning Commission during our regular meetings after the public input is complete, and we will continue to share any progress on this on our website. This is something that I feel like we need to wait to complete because we don't have all the public input yet. But I will hopefully be presenting a few of these to the Planning Commission at their November meeting so they can look at those and make revisions to before the December meeting. Well, quickly, I'll review the schedule for completion once again. Community survey is now open through the end of October. We're currently in the public workshops. We had one in September, and this is the one for October. We'll be drafting the plan through the rest of the fall and into the winter. The Planning Commission meetings will be held monthly, the first Tuesday of the month, unless otherwise noted, and we may be having some special meetings to address some of these issues. Public open house with the draft will come sometime in late winter, early spring of 2022. We will then incorporate the final revisions in the spring and start on the public hearings toward adoption ASAP in spring. Hopefully it will happen before midsummer. So I'm going to leave this future land use map up while we have our discussions so we can reference it if necessary. And if anyone gets bored, you'll at least have something interesting to look at. So with that, let's start on our discussions about the quality of life in Hardy County.